Hello, everybody. Here I am. It's the fifth podcast, and it's the last one before I take a hiatus to get some more technical work done so I can be a better presenter. Um, I have really been glad that I started the last week of December and then was consistent with 4 weekly ones. And it became apparent that I just need to have some more production experience. It's my hope that in the near future, I'll be bringing for all of us, other entities that can come in from remote and then talk with me. The other, I think, kind of a treat that I'm going to hopefully have to offer for us all is I'm going to be going to Europe this fall, and I haven't been home in 25 years. I'm from Germany originally. As I mentioned to you in my first podcast, I immigrated in 1972, the same year that our beautiful Montana Constitution was crafted. And I was just barely 13. And anyway, it's very exciting. My hope then is to broadcast to you from Germany, from France, specifically Paris, and then Switzerland, perhaps. We'll see. And I will be over there for a month to 5 weeks. And it's important to me that I can maybe talk a little bit about what's happening over there and how are people feeling about things. So, having said that, I'm glad that I didn't exaggerate about our new administration. As you know, we have a predator now who is running our country, and it's all hands on deck, literally. This now is the time, folks, when if we don't unite, we are going to be really sorry, because they're taking lots and lots of leeway of our freedom, and our process is not working. Now, having said all that, I will tell you that the person that's at the helm of our country, and I'm not going to call him the father of the country because he's not my father of the country. He loves to do these scare tactics. He loves to see people just scattering. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. Yes, of course it's concerning, but this is part of his strategy, is that we all talk to each other and we're all absorbed with this. My suggestion is, the key is, be aware of what is happening, know about all the big things, and proceed to operate as you are accustomed to. It is incredibly important now that the local entities continue to operate with dignity, respect, and fill the needs as best as they can of the people. Because I said this is a scare tactic. At the same time, we must be incredibly aware and unite. Okay, that's the thing. So you can't let him eat up your time. You got to focus on the mission, okay? And we got to focus on networking and everybody telling each other, what's going on, how can we be united on this, be a united front on this. So here, because what I really want to make clear is I'm merely a channel, like we all are in life. And for me, it is all about informing each other. And it is, I have really no ego in this. I told you that I think what I'm talking about is important and relative to all of us. All of life on this planet. Think about that. That's all. We're just talking about the entire life on this planet. And now more than ever, I think you can see now. I think people that were sort of sleepily rubbing their eyes and saying, well, I don't really know what's going on, I'm not really involved in politics. I'm sorry, folks. It's all about politics, because what you end up with on the ground is about how you put your mind to things. Now, having said that, I'm going to tell you something else. We must start to think from the heart more. Because if we're always just so factual and saying, oh, this and this happened, this and this happened. I mean, there has to be the allowance for vulnerability and heart openness. Because with all this stuff happening, you have to be sensible, logical, but don't close off your heart, okay? Because we have to be there for each other now. You can't say, oh, wow, good thing I'm okay, but this guy over there, wow, look at them. No, it's about, here is what people have to start to realize. And not that they don't already, but the climate refugees that we're having in other parts of the southern hemisphere, those will be here as well. This is all happening. This is why our local tribes here, the Salish, Kootenai, and Confederated, Pend Oreille Confederated Tribe, is working extremely hard on that topic, being what is called food sovereignty. And there are some key people. There's a legislator in Native American legislator, Patrick Yawaki. He is advocating for that very strongly, and he's in our house of the state. That's our house. It's the people's house. And I'm so excited. I've never been more involved in a process of the people than I am here in Montana. And I will be going to the Capitol every year from now on for the causes that I really feel need support. And I want to encourage you to do the same. They must see, the lawmakers, they must see we're all together in this, but I'm trying to say the legislatures, they have to, they have to see what it is that's important to us. And I understand that there are many people that cannot make it because they have other prior commitments, but then, everybody has to do something now. And this was something I discussed 2019 when I had the climate rally here in Polson. I said, look, this is the time for us all to have a certain level of discomfort and get out there and do something for the earth and for each other. The kind people will make it. The ones that are going to fight each other, it's going to be ugly. And well, anyway, I don't know. That's not going to be as good, But what I'm featuring today, and what you've been maybe waiting for or not, I'm not sure. But what I'm going to feature today, with great thanks to Families for a Living Climate out of Missoula, in particular, thank you, Caitlin Lewis. She supplied me with the audio video link from the Capitol that features all these climate action talks. And there are some super good ones. I was trying to be a reporter, and I got in there with my iPhone and hit my recording thing, and I was going to give you just the audio with some pictures, but was really delighted that I can bring you the entire video audio production of that. Approximately, I think it's 40 minutes or something like that. The speeches that you want to really watch for that really pull us together, I believe, at least for me, what was incredible and inspiring was Lance Forstar. He is a legislator that's out of Fort Peck, and we're actually related. My side of the family is registered there. The grandfather, Grandpa Bert Eater, who was passed away at 100. He's a legend. He's gone, sadly, but we loved him to pieces. He left us the December before last. But also Ray Eater was a chairman there. And anyway, Lance really just blew me away with his speech. Really pay attention, because he reminds us to be humble in the face of all this chaos. Remember who you are, and remember that we're all imperfect and we all have to learn things. The key, I think, is to be truthful and to be honest with each other and ourselves about, what's going on. What's going on with the youth? So there's been a lot of things that I've been doing there and trying to get something together. So what I did is I went to the high school. I made myself available 2 days for 2 hours each and had a sign-up desk. One has to get the environmental club approved by the board, so I'm not going to probably do that. And so here comes the other piece. I have been talking to an instructor there who has been doing the work for a long time. Her name is Amy Williams, and she's been really great. She's been gardening with our population, our school population, and doing recycling and some other things. It's a group that is going to be collaborating with me. I'm very excited. The Eagles, and they are gearing back up to be actively pursuing this in April. So what I would like to do until then is, because I don't want to wait till then, because there's so much happening and I want the children to have a place where they can use their voice. So I've tried to contact Eric Cook at Boys and Girls Club. I was told when I worked there 2 years ago if I want to come with my environmental information, which it will also be. We're going to also sit and talk about, how do you feel? How do you feel about it? What do you see? What do you think are solutions? What bothers you the most? We're going to have that. But I have not secured that yet, but that's in the works, and I think that will probably happen. And so we're going to have our meetings right across the street from the high school at the Boys and Girls Club, tentatively right now. I still have to get it okayed. Then I have had the great fortune to meet with Michael Derglow, who is the SKC head of environmental and cultural preservation for the tribe here. And he has been very supportive. I told him I really need to learn better production skills. So hopefully I'll talk to someone there that's a little bit more local that can maybe suggest some things to me, or maybe work with me a little bit, or refer me somewhere. And then the other thing I'm doing is I am contacting, or have contacted, MCAT. And it sounds like what they have, that's a community radio station out of the University of Montana. And that's not MTPR, that's they're live all the time and they're more well known and bigger. But MCAT would be where I would practice and maybe learn how to put on a show, a small community show, or at least learn the ropes with the electronics and the software and that. So I just wanted to tell you that that's what I'll be doing, is working with the youth, doing our programs, and getting our program started, and then later on collaborating with the Eagles when they start up in April. And we're going to be talking to each other all throughout this time about what's happening. Let me just make a quick check here. I wanted to correct something or clarify something. I do look at my podcasts after I record them to see, well, now how did that sound, And I did say on one where I was upset, I think it was the second or third podcast, and I said it was so vitally important that we are truthful with each other, okay? Like, that's another thing that this administration will do, is constantly lie to you, constantly exaggerate things. And if they tell you these things long enough, you'll start to believe it. The other thing is you'll contract, your heart contracts, you become fearful. And no, we can't be fearful now. We have to be courageous, loving, and we have to be kind to each other. And we have to inform each other. We have to communicate. This is the time to build community like never before, folks. Never before. Okay, so the correction or clarification was that I was unhappy about the riot, the insurrection that we had at the Capitol, and how when people tour our Capitol, which that's about 2 million a year. I mentioned that number, 2 million people, and I didn't say per year. It's not overall, it's per year. That's a lot of people. And you know what? The tour does not mention one little fitzel about this insurrection, which is an inaccurate account of history. Okay? And we can't be ashamed about anything. Things are the way they are. You present them the way they are, period. And that's all I have to say about that. I want to also give a shout out to Katie Harrison. She's working hard in Billings. I haven't actually met her personally, but I told her like 2 years ago, yeah, I want to do a podcast. And then I kept thinking, it was a little overwhelming. But here I am, and I need to remember to speak to the microphone a little better. So she is somebody that works really hard out of Billings to make the world a better place. And, with all of us, we're all in this together. Just because some people, do this and that doesn't mean, you know what? Everyone is important. Everyone is important right now. Everyone and their actions are going to really count. So don't just sit around and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm tired tonight. We need you. We need everyone. So, let me see. I'm going to turn the page here. Before I end this segment, introducing this climate talk section, I want to say that there was an incredibly strong Native presence at the Capitol. And I was just so encouraged to see that and to be able to work hand in hand, that we need to, because we are a beautiful state of 7 confederated tribes, which is awesome, that we can honor these people that were here before we were, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and didn't do any harm to the land. You'd think we might arrive and say, well, how have you guys been handling this? Maybe we could learn something. But no, we arrived and mostly wanted to kill and conquer. And I'm not going to go in any further there because it might open Pandora's box. But yeah, that's basically how I feel about it. And yeah, I'm mostly white, but you know what? That's just how I feel about it. And I was really quite surprised when I arrived as a child from Germany and I would tour this reservation. And I said, well, what are all these white people doing here? I thought this is their land. So it gets very nuanced, and I learned a lot over the years. I've been here now 53 years. Think about that. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you're all doing the good work out there, and I will be back after you hopefully see this section, and I hope you stay on to watch. By the way, there's going to be Steve Held who will speak, Lance Forstar. Those two are really big. And then our youth, there's some really key people, and I'm so sorry I don't remember their names, but wonderful speeches, each and every one of them. Please stay tuned for that. And thank you for being patient with me while I got this together, which has been over 10 days now, I think. Okay, thanks. Talk to you soon.
We, like many of you, are riding the flow of emotions in response to recent climate news and events. But today, we're fueled by this incredible, palpable people power. Our mission at Families is to create community for climate action in Montana. And it is this community here today, our amazing partners, all of you, and all of the climate-concerned Montanans we are representing, that fills us with determination, with strength, with power, and with joy. And it is truly a joy to be here with you all today. We are honored at Families to lead this coalition of 24 organizations hosting this event today. Some of our partners you'll hear from during the rally, and others you'll have the opportunity to meet at their tables afterward. Our coalition is diverse, it is broad, and it spans literally every corner of the state, from Pablo to Great Falls, Billings, Red Lodge, Missoula, Livingston, and more. We represent Montanans of all ages, backgrounds, cultures, and identities who are uniting under the common cause of building a healthy and resilient Montana for all. The majority of Montanans are worried about climate change. The majority of Montanans support climate action and clean energy solutions. Let's join together to raise our voices for climate justice and a thriving future for all.
Like Sarah said, my name's Winona, and I'm very excited to welcome our MC for the day. Ripley is a force of nature at just 18 years old. She's a high school senior from Livingston, a member of the Park High Green Initiative, and a powerful voice for change. Some of you may remember her from our last Climate Advocacy Day when she spoke on her 16th birthday. Since then, she's been featured on Nickelodeon for her support of the Held versus Montana plaintiffs. She also spent a year studying abroad in Denmark. Please welcome Ripley.
Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to the 2025 Climate Advocacy Day. My name, as Winona said, is Ripley Cunningham, and I'm a high school senior at Park High in Livingston. Today, I'm honored to be the MC of this event. We would first like to recognize the person who started off our rally today with a powerful prayer. Dylan Yupi is an enrolled member of the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribes. Dylan and his family live the cultural way of life. He's a lodge keeper for the Poplar Sundance, a sweat pourer, the Montana American Indian Associate spiritual advisor, here to find solidarity in my fear. As I look out upon all of the people here, I am comforted in knowing that we have an interconnected community of people fighting for the future of our home. As a young person, it is easy to feel powerless in changing environmental policy. I have only been 18 for 4 days now, and I could not even vote in the most recent election. However, being here today helps me realize the power that my voice carries and the change that it can create. All of you give me hope that change is possible. Thank you so much. Today, many of us reside in what is now commonly known as Montana. This land is the original homeland of the Bitterroot Salish, Assiniboine, Absaluga or Crow, Blackfeet, Chippewa, Cree, Gros Ventre, Kootenai, Little Shell Chippewa, Northern Cheyenne, Pend Oreille, Sioux, and other tribes that have interacted with these lands. This land was forcibly stolen through Western colonization. While it is important to acknowledge the long history of colonization, land acknowledgements are inadequate without concrete actions that support Indigenous sovereignty and land back. The American Indian Movement was founded in 1968 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was established to address systemic issues affecting Native Americans, including poverty, discrimination, and police brutality, while advocating for treaty rights, the reclamation of tribal lands, urban Indian representation, and tribal self-determination. The organization is also known for its use of direct action protests to bring attention to these crucial issues. The Montana American Indian Movement serves as the local chapter of this national organization. We are deeply honored to open this gathering with Lance Four-Star. Mucka Uchonch shakes the ground of the Assiniboine Nation, is a leader who carries a rich legacy. As a fully enrolled member of the Fort Peck Assiniboine tribe with Aani and Chippewa Cree heritage, his work is deeply rooted in his culture. From serving as the chairman of the Fort Peck Assiniboine Council to his current role as the director of the Montana American Indian Caucus, he has consistently stood against injustice and advocated for his people. He believes deeply that our actions today will shape the world our grandchildren inherit. Please welcome Lance Four-Star.
Naguchi Makai Chanchamagia, Kudeshana Shamatino, Tabetho Akban Wati. What I said in the Assiniboine language is, hello my relatives, my name is Shakes the Ground. I belong to the Red Bottom clan of the Assiniboine Nation. I am the beneficiary of a rich heritage, a great fortune worth more than all the silver and gold of this great state. I have inherited a legacy of ancestral knowledge as my birthright. My birthright includes knowledge embedded in my DNA. I share this with my family, clan members, and tribal members. Without ever being taught, we know that we must rely on our mother to live the moment that we are born. I reached out to my mother and held on for dear life and relied on her for survival, and knew her in that time as my literal creator. She created me. I love my mother to this day with all of my heart. Throughout life, I found out that I had another mother who created all of us and whom I also love with all of my heart. I learned that my inheritance also included teachings that I have allowed to grow into a litany of prayer. This litany of prayer starts with a declaration to creation that I am pitiful. My insignificance as an individual right here, right now, to all of creation. This declaration translates to the phrase, I am pitiful. Ushimana no. Before I learned how to pray, there was a seemingly overwhelming number of specificities within this litany of prayer. I hope to not only learn, but to say in my own language. Today I call to Creator to help all of my close family, the people I love, my people, my state, my nation, and most importantly, our mother. My ancestors carried this fortune that was a light sparked long ago and was carried throughout time as we hurled throughout space. The fire was started with an intent to survive, to continue forward no matter what. With the extreme conditions, and I understand there are fatal consequences for a lack of respect for Ina Makoch, or Mother Earth, and all of creation. Dagu Wakar, what is holy, Dagu Shkashka, what moves. I thank my grandfathers, our ancestors, the spirit of survival and life for an opportunity to exist in this moment. The constant gratitude for sustenance for our relatives, for the lives of our children, for the breath of life we take for granted, and most importantly, the water that is life is paramount. This attitude of gratitude, medicine people speak to life in our prayers, ensure a good path on our good red road the Creator made for us. The promise at the end of this road, red road of life, is the promise that the loved ones we held on to so tightly and anguished over when their lives slipped through our fingers, through our hands, through our embrace, await us on the other side, on another road beyond the road of life, a holy road in the stars. To reach the home fires of our ancestors is not wholly unknown. Only I can take accountability for my actions, which is my intent acted upon through words in combination with movement. The continuity of my movement must be based in prayer, with intentions that include the survival of the unborn generations of children of my children and grandchildren and their children and grandchildren who will either prosper or suffer. I acknowledge I live in a world consumed by the consequences of generations of ancestors who may or may not have intended on their happiness and health, our happiness and health. I have every intention that my great-grandchildren will speak my name in their prayers and thank me for their lives. I believe that indifference, hatred, racism, and white supremacy, which will no longer be tolerated, is the product of ancestors who are inconsiderate of our current generation and focus on taking. We can no longer tolerate this unsustainable indifference, hatred, racism, and white supremacy. We will no longer tolerate. We will not tolerate an attitude of white supremacy that has only led to environmental threats, institutional racism, hatred, and indifference to people of color, and we can no longer tolerate acceptance of a future we create where our children will suffer. The suffering of future generations cannot be outweighed by inaction. We must act upon our decision to create better policies that impact all of us. You are the front line.
Yes.
It is up to you to run for office, to become the agents of change in this great house, to offer testimony on legislation that impact our most vested sustainable interests. Above all, I ask you to remember that tomorrow, after this Climate Action Day has passed, you carry the fire of hope. The future generations will prosper and not suffer because we have failed to recognize in the very real trajectory we are on in this time of climate change, and that it's going to take very serious action to attenuate the effects of climate change in the layers of possible futures those future generations will exist in. Without action, we consent to the greedy consumption of fossil fuels without a responsible contingency plan to shift our society away from the non-renewable resource addiction to sustainable solutions. Remember, climate change will continue to create apocalyptic wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, and pandemics. Because of the greenhouse effect future this ever-rising carbon dioxide content in our atmosphere is creating, we absolutely cannot tolerate the irreverence of the symbiosis between our mother and us human beings. The symptoms of a sickness of disrespect to our mother and all of creation will continue to manifest itself in fire, smoke, rising temperatures, more extreme weather phenomena, sickness, and most importantly, the lives of unborn generations that we as a species have disrespected through our inconsiderate decisions in this era of man-made climate change. Don't be afraid to metaphorically stomp on the poisonous snakes that threaten our water, air, and land. Don't be afraid. Have no fear, do not be afraid to stand in this great house together as you are today. This is your house. Welcome home. You are always welcome here. Please, I beg you, respect yourselves and remember that the decisions made in our house cannot be made without your voices. Get involved, build networks, educate yourselves on publicly accessible legislation, do your research, recruit others to educate themselves. Walk with me. Gichio Mani. Agan Changu Akan, with the intent of creating a more beautiful future than the one we have now. Our state is populated to grow in population. Does that mean we disregard those already here and who have always been here? Please remember, many have sacrificed for our existence. The first people of this state existed here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We did something right to be here.
Amen.
Support the work of our impact on this great state. They are here to continue strengthening and expanding Native policy. I'm talking about the Montana Indian Caucus, our allies on both sides of the aisle, as well as contribute their voting power on the main goal of this legislature, to create a balanced budget. Within that main task are the intent brought forth from their constituencies. Have good intent with a beautiful future for our children. That is our collective legacy. Our children will inherit a beautiful state. It is an honor to be here. Do not hesitate to talk to me so that I can help you. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure I can find it. Kanamaya, and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Lance. Ryan J. Jackson, a member of the MHA Nation with Hidatsa and Assiniboine heritage, is a father, a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and a dedicated advocate for our planet. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, he's not here. So, Stephanie is a leader who understands the importance of balance, balancing nature, culture, and progress. Born on the Blackfeet Reservation, Stephanie's journey has taken her from the front lines as a wildland firefighter and a Marine to the halls of academia and back to her community. Now, as Secretary of the Montana American Indian Movement, she's a powerful advocate for Indigenous rights and environmental protection. Please welcome Stephanie.
Thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to be part of this panel of speakers and to have the opportunity to share my Indigenous perspective for climate change and the importance of advocating for environmental protection. For Indigenous people, we are deeply connected to the natural ecological system. Our land, religion, and culture are closely tied together. Our Indigenous ancestors needed the land and each other too much to permit excessive accumulation and ecological harm. This was the good way. This was the way the Creator wanted it to be. Montana is the ancestral homeland of the present-day 12 federally recognized tribes, as well as generations of immigrants who chose to settle here. This land has sustained Montanans for countless generations. Over the past century, the landscape of Montana has changed from massive herds of buffalo and pristine natural environments sustaining countless bands of Indigenous people to becoming a land of opportunity for settlers, miners, and explorers. Now Montana is comprised of Indian reservations, rural towns, small cities, and natural environments. Fundamentally, the most notable difference between the viewpoint of Indigenous and Anglo is the relationship of the land and the natural resources to the economic life of the community, a concept articulated by Professor William Cronin in 1983. In the beginning, our ancestors harvested big game, medicines, and other useful items meant for their domestic needs from lands which were unfenced and shared between families and allies. If treated with respect, the gifts of nature would remain abundant, free from exclusive possession, to be shared and passed on to succeeding generations. However, between 1600 and 1800, the New England countryside was drastically altered. Forests were clear-cut, wild game hunted with impunity. Alien livestock was introduced and water sources were contaminated with unfamiliar pests and diseases brought from Europe. Similar unrestrained changes swept across the nation throughout the 19th century. These environmental disruptions led to natural disasters, including oil spills, toxic waterways that would literally burst into flames. In the 1960s, environmental advocates began raising valid concerns about the dangers of environmental damage caused by the Industrial Revolution and the widespread use of pesticides. They worked to educate the American public on the growing link between human activity and environmental destruction, sparking a shift in national awareness. Over the past 60 years, land use regulation has become a crucial part of protecting our land and water. This increased awareness paved the way for passage of significant environmental protections and conservation laws, including the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, the Clean Air Act of 1970, and the Clean Water Act of 1972. Environmental regulation evolved from being a solely state issue to becoming a federal concern. Over time, this led to a compromise known as environmental federalism. Under this system, the federal government set uniform standards based on inherent health risks to the public, and states implement these policies. I hope that Montana legislators will create policies supporting action and promoting the use of renewable energy across the state. Indian tribes are sovereign nations whose existence predates the U.S. Constitution. Their political status is further affirmed through nation-to-nation relationships established by Indian treaties, underscoring the necessity of respecting their sovereignty and shaping environmental policies. These treaties define the political relationship between federally recognized tribes and the USA. Solemn promises made with the President of the United States. The legal framework for this relationship was articulated by U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Marshall in 3 landmark cases known as the Marshall Trilogy. These cases were the foundation of federal Indian policy. 1. Johnson versus McIntosh in 1883. This case introduced the doctrine of discovery, recognizing the tribe's right of occupancy. Number 2. Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, 1831. Identified Indian tribes as domestic dependent nations, describing their relationship with the United States as that of a ward to a guardian. And Worcester versus Georgia, 1832. This case distinguished between federal, state, and tribal authority, affirming that Indian tribes possess inherent sovereignty, which has existed since time immemorial. In conclusion, these principles remain the cornerstone of the nation's legal political relationship with Indian tribes and must guide decision-making, especially in environmental policy, where respecting sovereignty is paramount. To the Marines, Semper Fi, and everyone, God bless.
Thank you, Stephanie. Patrick Yawaki is the co-CEO of Red Medicine LLC and Food Sovereignty Director for People's Food Sovereignty Program. Patrick is an enrolled member of the Zuni Pueblo in New Mexico and is also a Turtle Mountain Anishinaabe and White Bear Nakota. He currently resides on the Flathead Reservation. His educational experience has allowed him to engage in Native Get Out the Vote and food sovereignty efforts as a community organizer and member of various community nonprofit boards and action groups. His primary focuses include treaty rights, tribal sovereignty, self-determination, economic development, natural resource conservation, broadband development, Native GeoTV, and voting rights. Please welcome Patrick.
Thank you very much. I guess something that wasn't said in my introduction was that our organization, Red Medicine, we do represent tribal nations in this state and really provide an important form of advocacy, direct advocacy with the state of Montana and definitely their process of making legislation. But I want to start, touching on since time immemorial in that term, or as far back as we can remember. Time immemorial is an important concept or term when describing our people's connection to this land. There are 7 reservations, 8 federally recognized tribes, and 13 plus tribes in the state. And each are different in their own way, but we share the realization that we have to be stewards of these lands. Stewards of these lands is also an important concept. Our tribal nations work hand in hand with our natural world, with the wildlife, the lands, and waters. We were hunters and gatherers, and we had domesticated farms and gardens. We spent our time following the seasons, moon patterns, and migration of wildlife in planning and taking care of our communities. Our connection to land is our utmost importance, what we call Mother Earth. Now there has been a great shift from what we can remember since time immemorial. We see the effects of climate change on the berries we pick, the birds who are not making their traditional migrations, rivers and stream depletions, and harmful effects of metals in our water supply. It was through the treaties signed between tribes and the U.S. government, which are considered the supreme laws of this country, that have not been upheld, and we see many attacks on our communities when it comes to promises made in our treaties. Excuse me. Important off-reservation hunting and gathering has been limited because of the development of these off-reservation lands. Through expansions of urban cities, energy development, specifically oil and gas expansion, and now there is an attack on reservation deer and elk with an attempt by a Montana state representative to open up non-Indian hunting within reservation borders, the promise made in treaties to protect tribal nations' food supplies. Montana Territory was all of Indian country. Through federal Indian policy, our people were stripped from our lands and forced to reservations, breaking our tie to our homelands and our stewardship of these lands and wildlife. There's a long history of abuse to Indian people, a long history of abuse to land and environment. This is a common story in U.S.-Montana colonialist history. With the expansion of capitalistic industry, we have seen firsthand the destruction of our lands and understand the risks that we have with our natural resources, especially for future generations. It is written in Montana Constitution, Article 9, Section 1, that it establishes the state's responsibility to protect and improve environment and natural resources for future generations. This includes air, water, land, and other environmental life support systems. What we are asking for the Montana state government is to respect the government-to-government relationship with Montana tribes. And we ask you, and also our legislature and our governor, to properly consult with tribes in good faith. In Montana, we have laws in the book to help guide these efforts. MCA 215-142 guiding principles in formulating or implementing policies or administrative rules that have direct implications. A state agency shall document its considerations in the following principles: a commitment to cooperation and collaboration, mutual understanding and respect, regular and early communication, a process of accountability for addressing issues, and a preservation of tribal-state relationship. Our connection through culture protects environmental districts down to land, water, air, and each individual species of wildlife. When we work together, we can protect Montana and our Earth for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Steve Held has been raising things his whole life, from livestock on his family's ranch to his children, including Ricky Held of the Held v. Montana case, to awareness about our environment. A raised Montanan through and through, he's here to keep raising the bar for environmental protection. Please welcome Steve Held.
Hard red wheat and grass-raised beef and fine, kinky wool. Who here has raised a plant?
What?
Who's raised a pet? Or a plant? Or raised a little hell? We have a celebrity in the house. Roger Sullivan is here with us today. Roger, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Roger is the lead attorney for Held v. Montana. The first successful youth climate lawsuit ever. When the children of Montana asked, Roger Sullivan raised his hand. We each have another proposition in our garden: raising ourselves to become good ancestors. Ancestors to our children and our neighbors' children. Children's children. My kids are fifth-generation Montanans, and we ranch on people's land who are 50th generation. Immigrants, we have 95% to learn. I am here to do my constitutional duty to become a good ancestor and to leave a clean and healthful environment. If we're real considered this legislative session, our representatives have an obligation to fulfill their constitutional duty that they have sworn to uphold, like HB 229. introduced by Deborah Powers, protecting MIPA and the health decision. There's testimony given today at 3 o'clock. I want you to all run down there, raise your hand and give them hell. Tell them what you think. I don't know what you taught your kids, but mine learned a few things on the ranch. Don't say done until you're back in the house and there's nothing else to do. Ask for what you want in life. And when somebody gives you an opportunity, raise your hand. I am dedicating myself to making every heartbeat count on this path to becoming a good ancestor. I invite you to come with me to raise hell with our legislature. Because we all know raising children is easy, right? It's easy, come on. It's easy raising legislators too. Feed them good information and wipe them up after they've gone spotted themselves. Give them a copy of the Montana State Constitution, the most beautiful in America. Our governor, Mr. Gianforte, is trying to raise fear that there will be an onslaught of litigation from the Hell decision. I've got a suggestion for the governor. Follow the law by upholding the Constitution and protect the people instead of wasting our time and our money violating our Constitution. If people lived with dinosaurs like our governor thinks, then coal is people. No wonder fossil fuels stink so much. They're Greg's ancestors. No. I tease the governor, but I'm here working with everybody to solve problems. As we would raise a difficult child, commit to making every heartbeat count, and raise hell with the legislature. Hey, there's somebody else who raised their hand and never has gotten to hear your appreciation. They never got to see you scream or yell with love and appreciation. All the way from the Peace Corps in Kenya, Africa, the lead plaintiff in Hellbeat, Montana, my daughter Ricky Akai Hell.
Thank you, Steve. Ula is a 17-year-old student at Billings Senior High in Billings, Montana. She's passionate about how policy and collective action can impact the environment and social issues alike. Ula plans to pursue higher education in environmental science or biology with a minor in political science, focusing on how environmental issues impact different demographics. She represented Montana as a senator at Girls Nation 2024 in Washington, D.C., and brought a bill about sustainable agriculture to our representatives. Ula is involved as a student body officer at her school and spends her spare time competing in cross-country, playing the cello, participating in citizen science, and hiking. Please welcome Ula Jones.
I want to acknowledge someone who I think would be proud of me being here today. My grandfather, Bernard Dahl, is a longtime Montanan, and he fought in World War II for our country. Him and the other veterans in our country have fought for all of us to have equal protection under our Constitution and to have equal protection of our lands and access to a clean and healthful environment. While I plan on pursuing a degree and career in environmental science and social justice, the main expertise I have to offer as of right now is as a teenage girl. Teenage girls are often viewed as poster children of the modern consumerism and materialism that is so detrimental to our earth today. I get it. We do consume an endless stream of fast fashion and new products to meet the image expected of us. But in no way can we write off the importance of including all young people in any goal we have as a whole society. A terrifying trend in all people right now, of all ages, is the rise of individualism. In a digital age where seclusion is easier than ever, young people are not learning the importance of empathy and community enough.
No kidding.
People who get through the education system without learning the importance of empathy will never care to fight for environmental justice.
That's right.
Until the impacts are on their own doorstep. Being outspoken about protecting our earth, I have heard many excuses before. Why would I recycle this? The trash is right there. That's not my problem. What can I do about it? I'm just one person. What about the economy? Our world has become so fine-tuned to instant gratification and convenience that some people won't even do the simplest of sustainable actions to help protect the earth that is all of ours. If you think you are a good person who would help anybody else in a time of need, but you can sit back and watch wildfires, hurricanes, droughts, and mass extinction rip apart our planet and our fellow people, then you are wrong. Everybody, teenage girls, teachers, and especially our legislators and leaders on every level need to take their responsibility to take care of our planet seriously. So how do we get people to care? We need to teach our young people to understand this responsibility seriously. To do so, we need to make sure witnessing the beauty of our land is a privilege enjoyed by all, not just enjoyed by some. To quote Baba Diom, in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. We cannot expect the fight for a sustainable future to continue until we guarantee that all children in America have access to the outdoors. Because until you have seen the beauty of our world up close, the urgency of the climate crisis will not speak to you. I was lucky to grow up with parents who made a point to show me the beauty of our natural world, no matter how much or how little money we have. Unfortunately, many cannot see the same. As 28 million American children, and 1/3 of all Americans, live further than a 10-minute walk from their nearest park or green space. We need every single young person's passion and involvement, because as my AP Gov teacher says, the next generation, after any important movement, always takes the progress for granted and drops the ball. We cannot drop this ball, because it's literally our planet. As Montanans, we are all very lucky to enjoy the beauty of our great state. And I know that in the future, I will be able to look my grandchildren in the eye and tell them I did everything in my power to fight for this state and planet that they get to enjoy. Will you be able to?
Yes.
Thank you, Una. Growing up in the shadow of Glacier, our next speaker developed a deep love for this land. That passion has driven him to become a dedicated advocate for our environment, working with organizations like Climate Smart Glacier County and Citizens Climate Lobby, and currently leading the charge as treasurer of UM's Climate Response Club. But climate action can be emotionally challenging. How do we stay motivated and avoid burnout? Luca has wrestled with these questions and is here to share his thoughts on building personal resilience in our advocacy. He will be graduating this spring with degrees in environmental science, studies, and sustainability science. Please welcome Luca Welly.
Thank you, Ripley. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. And I also want to thank all of our incredible speakers that we've had so far, who I am incredibly humbled to be among and follow, for sharing all of your stories and your wisdom. As Ripley said, I was born in the Flathead Valley, and I've since spent most of my life there on the traditional lands of the Kasanka and Police Bay people. And being able to recreate outdoors in what's now known as Montana, particularly in Glacier, in concert with learning about the threats that these places face, has inspired me to devote my education and career to protecting my home. I feel an intimate connection with the landscape I live in, as I know most of you do as well, and played a part in leading you here today, as it did for me. Well, it is a blink of an eye compared to the countless generations of Indigenous peoples who have lived here. I am grateful and proud to be the 7th generation of my family to live in Montana, which I am sure has contributed to my love of this place. That love motivates me in nearly everything I do. The earth is our mother, and her inhabitants are our relatives, and we ought to treat them as such. The peoples who have lived here since time immemorial know this. traditional ecological knowledge they hold is vital to building a sustainable future. But unfortunately, not everyone sees this. In the modern world, we are taught, consciously or no, that humanity is somehow a separate entity from nature, that we are only ever negative influences on our environment. Many people in the United States do not have the privilege of living as close to the land as most of us do in Montana, and don't develop that same sense of place. Because of these narratives, there are people that extract resources from and degrade the land, rather than respectfully interacting with the gifts of creation. If we are to make lasting change, we must shift this narrative, recognize that we are a part of our environment, not apart from it. That we are not defending nature, but that we are nature defending itself.
Yeah.
This is a radical way of thinking. And the word radical comes from the Latin radix, which means root. It's also where we get the word radish. But by taking this approach, we can address the harmful perspectives that are at the root of our environmental crises, treating the disease rather than the symptoms. That is not easy work, but I know that it is possible to challenge that paradigm within ourselves and in those around us. But in order to do so, we must address another more personal narrative, the notion that we should constantly be producing something, which is part of how we have overworked so much of our land so that they can no longer produce their gifts sustainably. As activists, as scholars, as people leading normal lives and experiencing the effects of an unjust and changing world, we respond with a variety of emotions. They include fear, anger, despair, guilt, motivation, solidarity, and hope, and more. I grieve for the losses that we have and will suffer. All of them are valid, but we must be mindful. We often believe that it is our responsibility to constantly be working towards a better future, and taking a break is somehow a moral failure. As someone who cares deeply about my efforts to protect my home, I put a lot of pressure on myself to make as big an impact as possible. These feelings can lead to burnout, nihilism, and other barriers to taking action. While this applies to everyone, us young people are particularly impacted. As Sarah Jaquette Ray writes in a field guide to climate anxiety, which I highly recommend to everyone, the story you tell about yourself will be crucial in your effort to cope with the changes that are fast coming and to reimagine how the world can be organized. I invite you all to seek out resources to understand how you respond emotionally to the state of the world, and how doing so can make you more effective in your advocacy. Talk about it with your friends, family, and neighbors. Consider speaking with a professional if there is need. I have. I invite you all to root yourselves and your action in love, because fear and anger are responses to losing things that are important to us. Focus on positive news media, because people around the globe are making progress towards a better world every single day. There is good in this world, and it is worth fighting for. Take the time to recharge. If I don't get outside hiking or skiing or listen to my favorite music, hang out with my friends regularly, I am less able and motivated to do this work. Root yourselves in your love for Montana, our home. To love, to build community, to rest, to be resilient in the face of adversity, these are all radical acts. And they are how we sustain ourselves so that we might sustain our ecosystems and our livelihoods. You might not think that joy and climate action are things that go together, but that is another narrative that ought to be challenged. Being here today, seeing everyone standing up hand in hand and arm, brings me so much joy, so much pride for Montana. To find joy in your activism, I invite you all to consider the Venn diagram framework developed by Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. This framework asks us 3 questions. What needs doing? What am I good at? And most importantly, what brings me joy? At the intersection of all these answers is your personal path to climate action, in which you are most resilient. The climate justice movement is an ecosystem in which we all have a niche, a part to play. That diversity is a source of strength because it allows us to tackle issues across the board and at different levels. This action is our hope. We cannot save the world by standing alone, but we can protect our home by moving together. We can shift the narrative. It is an honor to be here today, as it is every day. Thank you all for being here for Climate Advocacy Day. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have to wrap this up soon, but our final speaker is Nick Fitzmaurice. Nick Fitzmaurice is the Energy Transition Engineer at the Montana Environmental Information Center, MEIC, with a background in engineering and experience working on an energy policy for Montana to Washington, D.C. He's a dedicated advocate for a clean energy future. Please welcome Nick.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to follow such a passionate and inspiring lineup of speakers today. MEIC, the team I get to be a part of, has been fighting for Montana's clean air, clean water, and livable climate for over 50 years. And I get to continue this important work as a part of MEIC's team of lobbyists here at the Capitol. I'm 24 years old, and like the many young people I see in the rotunda today, I've grown up experiencing the devastating impacts of a changing climate all around me. We're inheriting a world in crisis, but seeing this community of change makers come together today from across the state brings me hope. I want to thank you all for showing up to tell our legislatures we will not stand for anything short of rapid and comprehensive climate action. As Montanans, we share a fundamental constitutional right to a clean and healthful environment. The Hell of the State of Montana Youth Climate Trial indisputably affirmed that this includes a right to a life-sustaining climate. What this means is that the elected officials in this building are constitutionally obligated to maintain and improve a livable climate for present and future generations of Montanans.
That's right.
Fossil fuels contribute over 3/4 of global greenhouse gas emissions, and the development and consumption of these fuels, as permitted, regulated, and promoted by government officials, flies in the face of our fundamental rights. We may be a sparsely populated state, but Montana hits above its weight as a net energy exporter with approximately 30% of the nation's coal reserves. We also have among the nation's highest generation potentials for wind and solar energy. A safe, reliable, and affordable energy future must be built on a foundation of these carbon-free renewable energy sources.
You bet. You bet.
So I hear we're limited on time, so I'm going to have to cut this a little short. But I want to let you all know the decisions made in this building over the coming months are going to have a lasting impact on our contribution to the climate crisis and also on our ability to overcome it. We work with an extensive coalition of partners that is tracking legislation, and I encourage you to seek out our action alerts, our educational events, and to come out and support our work and to testify at legislative hearings to let our legislators know that we want them fighting for a livable climate. We've heard about House Bill 229 has a hearing this afternoon downstairs. I hope you all come out and support this piece of legislation that's going to implement the decision in the historic held youth climate trial to allow and restore the ability of the state to regulate and account for damaging greenhouse gas emissions. We'll be tracking these and other bills, and we'll let you know when it's time for you to stand up and be heard. So I hope you go out into these halls and defend our future. And at the end of the day, I hope you return to your communities feeling inspired, empowered, and motivated to continue fighting for a livable climate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I wanted to just say thanks for tuning in and a few other things. Today is the day, it's the 4th of February, and we're having a beautiful winter snowstorm out there. It's a perfect day to be sitting here doing the podcast. I'm all warm with my earth stove, and it's just snowing outside. It's been snowing all day. I don't know when it started, but it's pretty cozy. And by the way, that's a climate change thing too. If we don't get cold enough for long enough, then there are viruses and pests that have the opportunity to flourish because they didn't get balanced out, and when it was cold, usually that'll kill all that, right? So that was one of the reasons we had that moth that afflicted the white pine the white pine tree, and it's just, we need the cold. It's really good, and people will be seeking out the cold because it's going to get so darn hot and dry. They're all going to wish they could have a nice winter, and we're getting weird winters. So when we get a good snow, I'm actually really, really happy. What else? The other thing is too, I didn't mention this earlier, but I'll tell you now, I might be leaving for 2 weeks to Thailand. It's to actually get some dental work done, and I will be reporting from there. I will actually have somebody with me who's fairly knowledgeable about Zooming and doing this kind of thing. And that would happen 1st of April to about the 17th or 18th of April. Also, in March, I'm going to be applying for a grant. It's through Bonneville, BEF, Bonneville Environmental Foundation or Energy Foundation. I'm not sure what the E stands for. And it is a program they have called Clean Energy, Clean Futures. And people that are working with youth can apply, regularly, like I'm going to be doing. They can apply for these grants, and then there will be materials offered. And this particular grant is very suitable for us because it will be, basically, it'll be working with the fire issues that we have here. And this is something for the kids to learn, and for all of us to know about. So I'm really hoping that we'll get awarded so that I can use that and do a great job with the kids to introduce them and collaborate with others. I have to look at my little sheet over here. So, the Flathead Lakers. Another shout out to another one of my big groups out there. And there's other groups. There's another group at the north end of the lake that I'll talk about next time I come on. But the Flathead Lakers, remember, will have their Climate Cafe every third Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. at 110 Main Street, Suite B. And the way you get there is you go to, let your GPS get you over to where the Mexican restaurant is. When you see that, you're like, well, where is it? Well, then you go down the steps and to the left, and there's a door that you enter. And it's a very nice group usually that shows up, and it's very informative. So I want to encourage you to please come. Constanza, I think it's Van Fallen. I hope Constanza, I said that right, is really a great coordinator, and she's done some incredible work to some documentation that she's put out for us, and she's just a really friendly, approachable person. So then, last thing. I wanted to say a couple things. I'm not going to do any text boxes today. Maybe I will. But right now, I want to just tell you about an investigative journalist by the name of Greg Palast, Palast. He is done some really wonderful work out there to support democracy, and he uncovers a lot of things that are not known by the mainstream media. And one thing he did is he has a movie that he made called Vigilante, and I urge you to check that out. It's I think it's available on Netflix. I'm not sure. You have to see where it streams. Google it. Vigilante by Greg Palast. And he's done a lot of other really, really good work. The other news show that I recommend that has truthful broadcasts, not corporate affiliation like, NBC, ABC, and all that. CBS, in my opinion, is still the best, but, it's an opinion. But they're most closest to BBC, which is, of course, public broadcasting. However, Democracy Now!, I urge you to check that out. It's a news broadcast by Amy Goodman. She has been doing it for years. She's a real veteran. And you go on YouTube and go to Democracy Now! And then you'll see Amy Goodman. And that is where you will get the truth. So nobody can say, I don't know the truth. You know, try to not engage too much on social media and get back and forth, back and forth. It's not productive. I did it too. But what we need to do now is we actually have to, like Lance told us, Lance, you're so right. We are the front line people. And you know why? Because we don't have billions of dollars like all these people that are running our country now. Elon Musk, by the way, did you see him? Did you see him when he was all happy that he was, you know, wielding his power when he goes like this a couple times, like this? Look, where am I? Here. Just like Hitler. This is the 21st century Hitler regime right now. And they're just getting started, folks. They're just getting started. And I know what I'm talking about because my mother went through this. My grandmother went through it. They lost a baby that froze to death because she didn't have any milk to feed him. They had to bury him while they were fleeing from, you know, the Russians and the Germans. So anyway, not to end on a note like that. What else did I want to tell you? Just thank you very much. And I might, if I do a little, you know, presentation before I come on regularly again, please once in a while check out my Facebook Express It Here page and maybe see if there's a podcast. That would be appreciative. I do have a personal Facebook account that I'm pretty much not using. I might duplicate a thing or two there, but this is my work right now, is to be the Express It Here lady. Express It Here. And I hope to have you on, because that's another thing I wanted to. Oh, I remember what I wanted to tell you guys. Listen, I know a lot of people in the West. I've actually lived and traveled quite a bit. And I know ranchers that had the big rangeland wildfire, and it was horrible. Some of these people had, you know, the southeast Montana ranches, a small ranch is like 8,000 acres. So this family I want to talk to and interview, that is the Bones Ranch, and they're actually a family that I taught their kids when I was in Bernie as a country school teacher, my very first job. And I would like to meet with them if they have time and just talk about the impact and, you know, just giving their climate story basically. And that's kind of what I want to do with other people, not just the ranchers, but I want to start doing interviews. Like I would like to have Katie Harrison on, or a few other entities, or Constanza from Flathead Lakers, or then somebody from anywhere that has something to say and contribute. So not to go on and on, but please do kind of check in once in a while on the Facebook page. And by the way, I'm learning how to do Instagram. So I have a Gmail account, Express It Here. And then I have, it's at the end of the end music. Then there's a screen that tells you where all you can check in. But I'm actually still learning how to do Instagram, so don't laugh. But why not? You just have to tackle things sometimes if you have sufficient knowledge to get started. And actually, I got a very advanced stage of cancer back in 2015, and that almost took my life. And I had a lot of support from my family, in particular my mother and my mother-in-law, Joanne Eder, without whom I would not own my property anymore. She was very supportive to me, and my mother nourished me back to health. And on that note, that's another thing. I mean, cancer, they're trying to figure out what it is, but I'll tell you one thing it is it's all these toxins we can't see. And if you remember my podcast, the first one, I discussed plastics, and I discussed the thousands of chemicals that are in plastics that are surrounding us, the PFASs now. And we don't even know how to get rid of them, what they're doing to us. They're just there. And the reason we're tolerating it is because the system has been set up for you to stay busy, number one. The other thing is you do not see, smell, can't touch them, or feel them, okay? So in your mind, these chemicals don't exist, but they exist inside of us. And back in 2015, when I was still working at Pulse, and I had no idea that I had it yet, I had what they call ascites, so I had an extended belly, and I actually even worked in the summer to help the school out, and then I finally went to have that checked, and anyway, the rest is history. But at the time I was telling my colleagues, I said, 40% to 50% of all of us will be getting cancer. And now, every time you turn around, you hear, oh yeah, they got cancer. Doesn't kind of like make you want to wake up and think like, why is this happening? And no, it's not because we have better diagnostic. It's actually an increase in cases overall. And it's actually kind of epidemic if you ask me. So all of these things, you know, these are real things on the ground. I have been spared, and to this point, I'm in remission. I hope I stay there. I have a lot of work I want to do. I have a beautiful young man in my life. That's my son, whom I would like to really be there for. He is doing incredible work himself at his young life, and I'm very, very proud of him. So I think that's it. I just hope that you guys are gonna come onto my podcast when I get back on, and we can have some more fun. And because, you know, the other thing is, before I sign off, this is really important. It's important to do good work. You know, John Lewis said that, do good work. He said something a little more than that. I can't remember, but it's important to work hard, to make yourself a little uncomfortable. Come out of your comfort zone, do something that matters, and you'll feel better, guaranteed. You'll feel like you actually did something for the situation that we're in. And then celebrate life, because then you've earned it, right? Okay. Well, I love you all, and I know this is to the people that are kind, and the others, well, hopefully you'll open your heart. And I don't mean that in a weird way, but people always go, you love us. Well, yeah, because that's what it's a love for good humans, right? We're having love between humans. It doesn't have to be anything weird at all. And I used to tell that to my students, and they weren't used to it. And I said, well, I love you as a teacher because I care about you, you know? So, okay. Well, I hope we meet again soon, and thank you for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.